Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. It is, I think we're in August. When I'm recording this right now, it's July. It's 114 degrees out. So let's hope my computer does not melt in the middle of this. I have a plethora of fans and air conditioners running, but we should be okay. And today's guest, you know, I always talk about Big Brain Dave. You've all heard me interview Dave Harvey, and he's got another one coming up. Big Brain Dave introduced me to today's guest, not just a paranormal investigator, but a CSI investigator. That's right, like the TV show. She's going to tell us what CSI means. I know what it means. Okay, so I want to talk to Tracy Hedrick. Tracy, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So this is one of your first podcasts you ever done, is it?
It is.
Oh, well, I'm so glad to have you. I have to ask you a bizarre question as a comedian, because CSI, are you technically a police officer or is the crime investigation different?
I'm not a police officer. I'm a non-sworn employee in law enforcement. So we do have sworn individuals, some that are on the crime scene team, but I am actually a non-sworn.
Okay. It's so, whenever I do stand up and I'm out on the road, I talk to the crowd. You know, I always go, hey, what do you do for a living? Or what's your job? And I always made a note that when someone says they're a cop, I know they're lying because police officers always say police officer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I'm always like, that's a flag, man. And they're like, how did you know? And I'm like, I'm just psychic. But you never know. So now can you tell us a little, because I'm already fascinated before we even put paranormal in. Can you tell me, maybe this is too big, vague question, but can you tell me about your job as a crime scene investigator? Like, I don't know, any information for those of us that don't believe the TV show represents anything like what you do?
Well, it definitely doesn't. They have much better equipment in Hollywood, and they can solve a case in an hour. That's definitely not the case with me.
Okay.
I document, collect, and then I forensically process evidence both at the scene and in a laboratory setting. And I handle any type of crimes from burglaries all the way to murders.
Wow. Now, that's what when you said they had better equipment, that's what I thought was that, now human beings think that when something happens, my bike was stolen. Are you going to dust for prints? It's like, no, that's not really going to happen.
Well, depending on where it was stolen from, we might just do that.
I should have pursued that when my bike was stolen. So
you definitely should have called.
I know. And you're up in Sacramento, correct?
I'm in the Sacramento area, yes.
Okay. And are you in the heat wave right now also?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, not as bad. So now let's jump right in, because I love your perspective, because as a crime investigator specialist, when you go on your paranormal investigation, well, first of all, how did you get into the paranormal investigation? Did it somehow kind of just, it was something paranormal was something you were interested or you experienced?
Well, actually, a lot of my family, when I was younger growing up, they were involved in the paranormal field. And it just became something that was more of a way of life than it was an interest or a hobby. So as I got older, my family and I had a paranormal team, and then a few of them decided to go investigate from the other side. So it kind of left me by myself to find other people that I could, that have the same kind of philosophies in investigating. And I started investigating with another group a handful of years back, and I met some really wonderful people. And we all decided we had, the same philosophies when it came to investigating, and decided to break away and form our own group. So in 2011, we formed Full Spectrum Paranormal, and we have been investigating ever since.
Wow. And now you are the first Paranormal Investigating Family I have heard of. I cannot believe that was not a TV show because they have tried everything else. That's fantastic. So do you incorporate like psychic stuff or mediumship stuff in your investigations yourself? Or are you like, I always picture that you must be like a facts person.
Well, I am a facts person. I'm looking for tangible evidence, but you can't really ignore instinct and intuition. I think that, I incorporate both of that in both fields, both the paranormal field and in my CSI work. And I think it's that instinct and intuition that helps direct you into what you're looking for, especially like on a crime scene. I'm out there and you kind of get that sense that maybe you're looking in the wrong spot. You need to look elsewhere, or you need to, take this piece of evidence because it could possibly be key in this investigation, and you find out later it is. It's that instinct, that intuition, and definitely incorporate that in our investigations. As far as, any type of psychic awareness, I think that the more that you're involved in both, the paranormal and in my career field investigating, you kind of grow and understand and learn to trust that intuition and instinct, where I guess one could say that it is more of a psychic awareness. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. In fact, I find that interesting, and just that answer there just set off like 4 different questions in my mind. So I need to. I'm scribbling as we speak. So you did say even in your regular investigation, because I always feel like people that are very good at their job, no matter what it is, whether it's, police officers that walk in a room and sort of instinctively already know what's going on or what happened. So that makes me feel better that instincts are a lot of your CSI job.
Yes, absolutely. Because you also have that intuition if something doesn't feel right, both in CSI and in paranormal investigating. And that's really what can keep you alive. You walk into a scene and you're like, something isn't right here. You're automatically, your sense of awareness is heightened and you're looking around for any type of dangers.
Wow. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent. I contacted Tracy, everybody, and and I was like, I'm going to give you sort of a view of how this interview is going to go and what questions I'm going to ask. And now I'm already like way off the mark because I just am fascinated already. I do readings for a lot of police officers. And one of the things that some people may have heard me talk about on the podcast is sometimes, do you ever get to a crime scene and sort of feel, I feel like sometimes the victims looking for help will start, even that have passed over, start to follow police officers around. Like if you're on the other side and you don't know that you've passed away and you're looking for help, that's who you're going to sort of follow around. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. On several occasions that we've all actually felt that way. We've gone to scenes where something felt off, or I'll be in a room somewhere and I'm like, I'm not alone right now. And you just get that sense, you get that vibe that there's something else there that's wanting to connect with you. And I think that also kind of helps you and directs you as far as when you're looking for things at the scene as well.
Oh, that's, so when you are, when someone talks to you and they're a skeptic, since you probably are the best debunk that could come along on an investigation, you probably find things. I remember once we spent an hour debunking a photo I took, and it turned out to be my shoe. So
we've had that too.
You probably save a lot of time. If someone was to ask you, what is the best piece of solid evidence that you could tell a skeptic happens, that when you walked out of an investigation, we came up with this, what would be your favorite thing? Would it be EVPs or pictures, or what do you think is the best form of evidence we get as investigators?
I like pictures. Although EVPs are wonderful, I tend to scrutinize my evidence to the point to where even if I have something, I'll doubt it. I really will. And I have to keep telling myself, you can't really doubt that. I mean, I like to call myself a sensitive, skeptical believer.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Perfect.
So, but I do love pictures, because, with a lot of the pictures that I've seen, and we've only really captured a couple, unless you can really recreate that, it's hard to say that, that isn't something paranormal. And like I tell people skeptical, all paranormal means is not normal. Not saying that it's a spirit. I'm not saying, but it's something that is just not normal. So that's what I just tell people. Look at the picture. Tell me how you can recreate that, because we've tried to recreate it and we cannot. So what do you think it could be?
That's such a great way to sort of ground a skeptic, is it just means it's not normal. It doesn't mean it's Satan. It's not always Satan. It's
exactly.
It's funny because I'm with you on the pictures. I not only I will sit for hours and take pictures, and I also believe they are probably the hardest evidence to get.
They are.
And EVPs are the ones that I think really creep people out, but I've sort of grown accustomed to them. So somebody was asking me the other day on another podcast about evidence, and they were like, how do we find EVPs? Do we have to buy them? Are they on the internet? And I was like, no, I have a bunch of them. I just don't know where I put them because I'm obsessed with pictures. The funny opposite side of the pictures is that with Photoshop on the internet, if you're going to post it, you have to be ready for someone to come in and go, that's nothing. I have an app that does that. It's harder to believe now that the faking has gotten so much better.
It is. And that's why I would still love to go back to actual film. Just the old school, Polaroid camera, where as soon as you're capturing it, it's printed out. And it's a lot harder to say that you Photoshopped that when the camera's spitting the film out right there.
Oh, yeah. And that has to be expensive. Oh, my God. I take so many. In fact, I'm currently looking for, if any of my paranormal friends out there know a really good still, they make very few still cameras that have that good night vision. I've taken apart like 4 digital cameras and ruined all of them. I'm trying to get the little IR filter out. But
yes.
Yeah, you're using Polaroid. Oh my God. What would you say?
Well, we haven't used it yet. I said I would like to, but as far as finding something, it's just not feasible nowadays to find something that would actually, that would work for what we would want. But we actually use digital cameras. We use, of course, video cameras and infrared cameras and 360 cameras. So we have all kinds of cameras at our disposal. But yeah, it's very easy to be able to say that we Photoshopped something in there, or that we touched it up, or so even then, the photography aspect of it still can be scrutinized, and skeptics just kind of tear it apart when you do show it to them.
Yeah, there's very little. If someone wants to debunk what you're doing, they will find a way. I've had people tell me that EVPs were radio stations that were caught flying through I don't know what they thought, but somebody's always got, it's like I did tarot readings for somebody back when I started in my I think I was like doing $20 an hour. This was when I very first started. And some woman said, my husband thought that you were just going to Google me and say all kinds of things. And I was like, you think I'm going to spend 5 hours Googling you for $20? It's like, it's not going to happen.
And I really feel like that if somebody is skeptical, and of course I love skeptics because they keep you honest.
Yeah.
But if somebody is skeptical, there's not a lot that you're really going to be able to do to change their mind.
Yeah. And how long have you been a CSI officer? Is it officer?
Well, just I'm considered a community service officer. who actually is involved in the crime scene. I'm actually the forensic person. So I have different titles. So that just means that they can give me a lot of work in different areas and just pay me one paycheck.
Ah.
So, and I'm sorry, we'll go back to the question again. My train of thought.
No, don't worry about the question. And in case you couldn't tell, I'm going to slip in the phrase CSI as often as I can because it's so impressive.
Okay.
I was going to say, how long have you been doing the crime scene investigation?
Oh, yeah, that's right. So I've actually been in law enforcement for almost 19 years, and I've been fully involved in the crime scene investigation and the forensic processing for 13 years.
Wow, because I was going to ask if your sort of crime scene investigation skills cross over to your paranormal investigation, but it's probably almost all instinct with you by now, isn't it?
Well, they do actually cross over because when I'm on an investigation, whether it be paranormal or a crime scene investigation, I'm basically following kind of the same guidelines where I walk in somewhere and I'm looking top to bottom. I'm looking for things that may even be causing, like on a paranormal investigation, somebody's saying that in a certain area they feel strange or that they've seen something in another area, and I'm automatically looking for anything that could be causing that. And the same thing on a crime scene. As soon as I walk in, I'm automatically looking for the layout of where everything is at. So it's the same concept, just what I'm searching for is different.
Boy, I'm thinking no one could ever cheat on you, could they?
Oh, I'm sure that they could. I don't get to know all the time. Like I tell people, if I don't get you now, I'll get you later.
I can just see you. Hey, Tracy, how are you? Honey, why is your shirt buttoned differently when you came in earlier this morning? It was just checking top to bottom. I know exactly what happened there. Oh my. So you would have a degree in forensics, right?
My degree is not in forensics, but they put you through all of the certified training and everything that you need to be able to actually do all the forensic work.
Oh, so you can sign up to do this without. I was going to say I'd be surprised if you said your degree was in English lit, because that probably would.
It's liberal arts, believe it or not. And I haven't even completed it yet.
Oh, wow!
I'm still working on it.
Oh my God, don't bother. You've already made it. Wow. So you train with the police. I didn't know that. Maybe if this podcasting thing doesn't work out, I'll know where I want to go.
I just started off, I originally wanted to become a police officer. And so I started working in law enforcement and decided that I wanted to go into the forensic field. And that's where I just focused on the forensic aspect of law enforcement and went through all of the training programs and all. And they do put you through some college courses. And that's where I am today.
Wow. You can't talk about any of your cases or vaguely speak about them, can you? If I ask some bizarre kind of like, hey, what was the best clue you ever had? Probably not, huh?
If I'm vague, probably.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just throw this out, and if you can't, you can't. If you can't, we'll go immediately to a commercial.
Okay.
Have you ever had where seriously, like almost psychically, you almost walked in and you had it right away, and you were like, "It's that over there. This is what happened." Like, I almost want to ask if it was like a paranormal event where you almost felt like you were channeling or really communicating more so than just instinct.
There has been, I can think back to one case where it almost felt that way, where I walked in and I'm looking at the scene. I'm like, this isn't anything criminal. This is something that occurred. It was accidental. And I could almost replay what happened. And it was a very strange feeling, a strange sense. And, the detective that was there with me said, "What do you think happened here?" And I'm like, "I'm telling you, this is what happened." And luckily I was able to kind of find the evidence to kind of show that. But it was really interesting to walk in there and to get that feeling that I did.
Wow. Do you think, have you ever had anything that sort of you learned in the paranormal field that sort of crossed over and helped you in the crime scene investigations?
Oh yeah. Always trusting my instincts.
So you learned that in the paranormal. Wow. Well,
I did.
Yeah. So was your family must have been very open to, psychic stuff or mediumship stuff, or were they just facts people?
No, they were more open to the psychic mediumship stuff.
That has to be the best childhood Halloween ever.
Oh, it was always fun. It was always fun when there was some sort of strange encounter at my grandmother's house, and when us children were screaming because it happened, the normal response was, "Oh, that again."
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're sort of, so I'm going to put you in that category of psychic medium, kind of. Can I throw you in that category?
Sure, why not?
So it's a little bit of I always love that when it's a family DNA thing. Like, I think that makes it so much more encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I have had family members that have had experiences, encounters, and even as a child, both my brother and I have had experiences and encounters. And it was difficult because I don't think that they were as open as far as understanding what it was. I don't think there was as much, talk about it or research as there is nowadays, where you have people who can help you to understand what's happening and help you to kind of identify how to handle it. So It was a little different back then than it is now.
So it would be like a haunted house or something, and the attitude was more, you just got to put up with it.
Kind of, yeah. It was less of trying to understand what it was and how to deal with it, and more of, oh, we've got this going on. Okay, let's try to just ignore it and it'll go away, or use religious references to try to make it stop.
Yeah. Wow. Well, at least they didn't. I always feel terrible for the mediums that, as kids, everyone was like, you're not seeing what you think you're seeing. And I thought that has to make you feel crazy if someone's telling you that. Wow.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been on I know this is kind of, have you ever been on a paranormal investigation and felt like you solved what happened there? You know how sometimes, like I always say the word wrong, but I always say the Visalia murder house where all those kids were murdered, but nobody knows what happened. Have you ever read something like that and kind of used both sides of your experience to figure it out?
It's funny because I never feel like when it comes to the paranormal that I'll ever be able to solve anything because it's so broad. There's just there's so much involved with the paranormal. I feel like the only thing that we're able to get are pieces to the bigger puzzle. But I don't think that we will ever be able to really solve anything when it comes to the paranormal, because there's just so much we don't know. It's really kind of a pseudoscience as far as investigating it. We can't actually, go into a laboratory setting in a controlled setting and, be able to create a hypothesis of what's occurring and test it and, and give it a name. I mean, there's just so broad. There's so much we don't know. So I don't think we can ever really solve anything, but I think we can get pieces to a puzzle. And yeah, I've gone into situations where I'm like, okay, I think I have a little piece to this puzzle here, but the puzzle is just so huge. It's going to take us forever to even try to figure it out, even if we can.
Yeah. It's amazing. The little that we do know is like, it has to be 0.001% of what actually is out there. That's what I've figured since, people, I remember the first time somebody said fairies around me and I thought, oh, this group's way too far out for me. And now I'm like obsessed with fairies and what's in between, ghosts and the certain levels there. And hey, I'm going to take a break for 1 second. People are always asking me, Karen, you are so knowledgeable about tarot, ghosts, and otherworldly spirits. How do you stay so organized and grounded here on Earth? And I have to tell them my secret weapon. It's black tourmaline. And Nita over at nitaapple.com. After years of complaining about all the text messages and emails back and forth, trying to schedule tarot readings and chasing after payments, Nita installed Acuity Scheduler on my website, and now I just get a little ding on my phone, and that tells me someone has made an appointment and the money is already in my account. I love that little ding, except every time it goes off, Courage runs to his food bowl. 5 minutes with Nita can save you 5 hours of bumbling around and trying to do things yourself. So if you spend 10 minutes with her, that'll save you like 72 hours or something like that. I don't know. I'm not good with math, but you know who is? Nita. That's who I would ask. Want to end all the emails back and forth and get paid up front when clients schedule time with you? Then hop on over to nitaapple.com/services. And let Nita get you set up with a simple system that will make your life so much easier. Use coupon code BOO4U and get 20% off any products or services. She's got a lot of services and products that can save you time and money. That's BOO4U, all lowercase, BOO, the number 4, the letter U, and get 20% off. That's Nita Apple at nitaapple.com/services. nitaapple.com/services, and make your life easier today. Now, I want to talk about what Sacramento and like what places do you do tours up there? Does your group do historical stuff up there?
We actually do. We have partnered with the Friends of Columbia State Park, and 4 times a year, we actually conduct paranormal tours to help raise money for the preservation of the park itself and also for the education for the children. And normally we do those tours in April, June, August, and October, of course, the weekend before Halloween. And we take our guests on 4 separate locations where we go into the historic buildings there, and we conduct paranormal investigations for about 3.5, 4 hours. We also give a short tutorial on how we investigate and the different equipment that we use. And all of that money goes straight to the Columbia State Park.
Can you tell us about that park? What's the history or what happened there that it became haunted?
Well, it's one of the few remaining parks that actually have the original buildings. The entire downtown portion of it are all the mostly original buildings, and it was founded and built in the 1850s during the gold rush, when the gold rush actually first started. So the area was completely mined for gold. Everything was hand dug, the quarries, everything there. By the miners. There were miners that had staked claims there. So it was kind of that Old West gold rush, rough and raucous town. So a lot of stuff happened there. They had the town itself burnt down 3 times because of fires. Wow. In the 1850s and 60s and 70s. And they rebuilt, and they actually were still in operation throughout the 30s and 40s.
What, really? That's all you have to say is gold rush, and there was then you can add brothel to it, then you can add murders to it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
there was a lot of drinking, and I'm sure a lot of women and a lot of fun to be had in that town during the 1800s.
Right, and that's like my apartment in Van Nuys a lot of times too.
I want to come hang out with you.
Oh yeah. We got a spot for you. We got a spot on the floor for everyone to sleep.
Fabulous.
Do you have particular entities or spirits that show up kind of a lot or over and over repetitive?
It varies. it just depends on the energy of the group and the energy of the town at the time. There are times when we encounter something that is new. There are times when we encounter the same kind of energy over and over again. We've recently received reports of because in the downtown area, they have vendors that actually rent out some of the historic buildings, and they do reenactments there, which stirs up a lot of energy. But there was an employee of one location that had passed away, and we have received reports that employee has been seen inside that building in the middle of the night as people, have gone to do checks and stuff in the area to make sure nobody's wandering around there. So it just all depends.
That's fascinating on two levels, because I've never, I always think if you're passed over to the other side, why would you want to go back to where you work? That's like, you never see ghosts on vacation. That's where you'll find me haunting Hawaii.
That's where I'll be too.
Yeah. And it also makes you wonder, because I wonder then if sort of a lot of ghost activity may have opened up a vortex or made that area easier for somebody to come through. If it's sort of like you said, there's new things popping up. Maybe it's a very active, or maybe the veil is thinner there or somewhat, since that's sounds like an employee coming back. That sounds very, seeing that full body apparition is so rare. And maybe it's like, hey, I'm here. In this spot, it would be like us having hot and cold spots. Some are better than others. Well, that's wonderful.
Right.
So that park, is that park something that people go to during the day? Like if I was in Sacramento, I'd want to go through there and hang out, or there's tours or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, it's open on the weekends and usually during the week too, because they have a lot of school children that go there for field trips. But it's open on the weekends. They have docents that are dressed up in period costume, and they're doing, tours of the area. It's pretty active during the weekend times. A lot of people go there because it's just a lot of fun. They have a stagecoach out there. You can do stagecoach rides. They do like yearly events where they actually dress up and they live out there as they did back in the 1850s and 60s during the gold rush period. So it's always kind of hopping. It's usually in the daytime that they're open. They close down around 5 p.m. and then the town just kind of clears out. And but there are still people that they have two hotels there in that downtown area, people that actually stay there. And it's usually where we stay when we do our tours.
And for people that aren't familiar with paranormal investigation, when there's a reenactment, when that is when you sort of, we don't know what they see. We assume, and I think successfully, I can say, that when you have people dressed from the same time period, or the way I always explain it is, if someone wears like that Civil War hat was a very specific hat. So if there's sort of a spirit on the other side and maybe they just see shadows or something like that, they see something they recognize, they react more. Is that a good way to explain that?
It is. Yeah, I think it just kind of stirs things up, and it brings out the curious. So kind of wondering, who's this person? Oh, hey, there's a new girl in town. So
yeah, new lady at the brothel.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do that a lot on, if people watch Ghost Adventures, they do that a lot. And I always tell my story of how I was in the Portland tunnels, and I wanted to do a joke video about them dragging me through the tunnels as they did at those times with people. And 2 minutes in the tunnels, I was like, yeah, not doing that. That's not a reenactment. That's not anything I want to stir up there.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful when you do stuff like that. Old Sac is Old Sacramento, where there's a comedy club down there. I spent quite a bit of time there. That really is, you really are talking old buildings. That's almost a little bit like Virginia City, where they kind of kept the integrity through time. And it's that always has a haunted feel to it too. It's got a ship there also, I think.
I believe it has a old paddle boat that's been kind of refurbished that's there.
I know they put me up one time in a hotel that was a ship.
Oh, okay.
Which means your room is tiny, 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 and dark
Right.
and depressing.
Yes.
And it was expensive, apparently, to be 2 feet off of the coast was very expensive. Now, my favorite, you guys, there's a haunted train, or you investigate haunted trains out there?
Actually, it's at a place called Railtown, which is not too far from Columbia. And that was the actual train depot for the gold country in the hills there. And it's been in operation since the time of the gold rush, 1850s, 1860s, or whenever they started building the railroad out there. And there are a lot of old trains, train cars and steam engines that are still actually at this location. And some of them have been brought in and some of them were actually used there. So we have gone out on a few occasions and investigated those, as they have had some of the volunteers there that had some strange activity, both in some of the buildings and with some of the trains. So that's been really interesting, just what we've kind of experienced.
I wonder, I know that whenever I go to Utah, Union Station is just incredibly haunted. And there's, again, the train station has a million, I believe that was where they would bring the bodies of the soldiers that died in the war, or, the gold would come through, or again, it's sort of, train stations have that feeling of, almost kind of sometimes nefarious. A stranger gets off the train or gets, you know what I mean? So it always,
right.
Much like the gold rush, it has that strange feeling. I just went to a haunted tunnel with my mom, because my mom will go anywhere. She's 86 and we were in North Adams and I couldn't find the Hoosick Tunnel. And I was like, will someone go with me? And she's like, sure. And then I forgot I'm the adult in the situation. I have to put the boundaries because she'll go anywhere. But that's another interesting venue is haunted tunnels.
Yes.
Are there tunnels up there where these trains are also, or it's all, well, you have tunnels underneath the city of Sacramento, don't you?
Well, we sure do. The city of Sacramento originally, the tunnels were the original layout of the city. And when it flooded from the river, they actually raised the city up to the current level. And that's how they got all the tunnels underneath. And you could take tours of these tunnels, starting off in Old Sac, and they just take you through a few portions of it. But from my understanding from people that I have worked with in the past and who've also lived in Sacramento most of their lives, the tunnels itself, there were still access points to it. So they were used for, a lot of the homeless population actually stayed in these tunnels, but they were also used for criminal activity, and they were used for teenagers doing things that they shouldn't be doing in the middle of the night. And that was recently, but back in the day, the tunnels were actually opium dens, and they were used for, prostitution and to house thieves. So kind of same thing nowadays, just different time period.
Yeah. Tunnels. Did they have, is there any history with that? Like Portland had that. I'm still obsessed with the Portland tunnels with all the Shanghai and the selling people. I wonder if there was, historically, is there anything like that up in Sacramento?
It's not advertised that they've had anything like that happening here, but I'm sure that it took place. They're just not being as vocal about it. Because you figure this was an Old West town. It was, gunslingers and horse thieves and people hanging from trees. And we're close to Placerville, which was originally called Hangtown because they hung at least, they say 1 or 2 people a day there back during the gold rush.
That's
so,
right.
It's known for the hanging trees. So yeah, it was just a wild West, free for all type of town up here. So I'm sure that they've had instances where there were a lot of people possibly sold and shanghaied, and I'm sure of it.
whatever horrors human beings now do on the internet more.
Exactly.
I forgot, one of my very first investigations was in Placerville, and I stayed at that hotel. What was that hotel?
The Carey Hotel?
The Carey Hotel. That is very, you get those, I don't know what the 2 rooms are. Every hotel that's haunted, there's always 2 rooms. You want to call and ask and say, I heard about the 2 rooms, and they'll know. And again, another one with not a lot of restoration. Have you ever investigated in Placerville?
I have actually investigated a couple different locations in Placerville. There's a cafe there that I love. It's called the Cosmic Cafe, and it's actually
goes into the cave in the back, doesn't it?
Yes,
yes. In there, yes.
That's one place I haven't investigated yet. I personally would love to investigate it. It's just that they're not really, open to actually having that happen right now. So maybe one day, we'll be able to get in there, but just a great location. It's great to actually be in that area and just kind of sitting in that part of history. It's it's interesting.
And I forget the story. Can you tell the people how that it got there, or why there's a tunnel in the back? Or most coffee shops have that, so there must be a story.
Well, from my understanding, that was actually the original offices and the entrances for the miners. So the tunnels are all the mines that when they, that it actually entered into all of the mines there as they were mining into the hillside.
Oh, so wow. So that, can you imagine being a ghost and coming out and there's a coffee shop on the other side of what used to be your office? Yeah, I
wouldn't be against it.
It's funny. I remember they weren't real open about it yet. Up at the bar upstairs, I think there's a bar upstairs. They have a picture right on the bar of somebody some ghost photo there. So they're not completely against. But yeah, Hangtown must have been, I got to get back there. It was awful, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was just, it was the place that you didn't want to go back in the day, because more than likely you would die.
Yeah.
It was a rough town, but I mean, just, it's a beautiful area. A lot of energy there. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah. And they had the comedy gig was in a country club or something, which now looking back, I wish we had investigated there even more so than the Carey House. And I can't remember. Somebody from Placerville sent me an email because it was a restaurant. It was a pretty fancy restaurant, and they had a stage, and I remember they had said they left a couple of investigators in there overnight that didn't make it, that were like at 2 a.m. were like, that's enough of that. Was
it the Sequoia House?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yes, we have investigated there.
That's really crazy. How were your experiences there?
Oh, it was really interesting. Of course, I have myself and a couple of the members on my team were usually the first ones to go into the attic or the basement, because that's where we like to hang out. And I found the opening to the attic. So of course we go crawling up into the attic, and you could tell that it possibly was a room for, the workers there. I believe that they had back in the day a housekeeper and a nanny for the children.
Okay.
And we're just kind of,
was that what was that before it was a country club?
Oh, it was actually a residence for, I think it's the B family, the BEE family. So they actually used it. I believe he might have been involved in like the Odd Fellows or with the Masons. And so he had a lot of meetings there. He had a few children, and he lived there with his wife and his family. And I believe they also used it for a stop with like the stagecoach, that type of thing. So they took in some boarders at times. Oh, but yeah, it was originally just a residence.
So they must have been rich, because that's pretty big. You said he was part of the Odd Fellows. What's the Odd Fellows?
The Odd Fellows, it's a kind of a secret society, kind of like the Masons. But from my understanding, was more of a blue collar group of individuals.
Oh, that sounds like my kind of secret society. I like that better.
Exactly.
The Illuminati. We want to. I got to look that up now. I'm going to do a whole episode on the Odd Fellows.
I would love to hear that because I don't know a lot about them, and I'd be very interested in knowing a lot about the Odd Fellows.
Wow, I got to find out. So, and I cut you off there. So you, I've gotten one complaint on my podcast that I go off on tangents, and I think I just have to, accept that is my authentic self. That is who I am. And
I think you're perfectly fine.
So you guys crawled up into the attic, and once you say crawl, I'm out of the. If I'm on your ghost hunt and you say crawl, I'm not going. I'll wait at the bottom of the steps. So you crawled into the attic.
We did, and we were just kind of walking around talking, and we actually caught an EVP. And it actually said, "Get out of here." And it was caught on my voice recorder and one of my partner's voice recorders. So, which of course we found out after the fact, and I kind of laughed and I said, well, we didn't get out of there because we still wandered around a bit, but,
oh, yeah.
you know? But yeah, it was an interesting EVP. And of course I'm like, well, did somebody say something? There's only 3 of us up there. Did anybody whisper? Nobody whispered. Who would say, get out of here? It wasn't our voice. So, but yeah, I still try to find a plausible explanation for that. It was still kind of unbelievable to me that I would capture that, but we captured it. And my first experience there, I actually was just going in and visiting, and they were serving lunch at the time. And I was just wanting to look around, and I was talking to the hostess there, and I was looking up the steps, and I had seen a woman with a high collared white shirt and her hair in a bun kind of walk past. And I had asked the lady, I go, what's upstairs? And she goes, oh, it's just our bridal suites and stuff now. You know, you can go take a look. There's nobody up there. And I said, oh, are you sure there's no workers up there? And she said, no, there's no workers up there. So I walked up there, looked around. I saw absolutely no one. And then that's when I came back downstairs and said, I saw a woman walking past. Where did she go? And the lady said, oh, you saw, and I can't remember, Francine or whatever her name was. It was supposedly the nanny that hung herself on the stairway.
Oh, why did she? That's such a gentle. Do we know why she hung herself?
From what I have discovered, she hung herself because I think it was a 3-year-old, had fallen down the stairs, broken their neck, and passed away, and so she felt guilty for that.
Oh, that's off. That's a sad one.
Yeah, it is a sad one.
Not that there are, self-hangings that are fabulous, but that one's, there's certain ones
tragic
where your heart goes, oh, I could see myself doing the same thing. So it is more,
right.
Yeah, you feel responsible for. Wow. So she's pretty active there. You know what? I think that I have to try and get a comedy show at the Sequoia. And
you do?
Yeah, that was a great little club. I don't know what happened to it, but I think I'm going to give them a call. If you're in Placerville or that area, help me out there. That would be
I will look into it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, we could get rooms at the Carey House and have all kinds of, that would be wonderful. I forgot about Placerville. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're down to, you've already given me enough of your time, but we have to get to the grit, to the questions that people, a lot of the dark side of us wants to know. What is the most unnerving thing that ever happened to you during an investigation, whether it was crime scene or whether it was paranormal?
Oh, well, it's kind of, as far as the paranormal, it's hard to pick something that was unnerving because I'm so used to it. I'm so used to the creepy factor in both my work and in the paranormal. So, what's unnerving to me is the tangible, like, at a cemetery investigation, I was chased by a skunk and, that was unnerving to me, and especially since I think it was mating season. So I was a little unnerved by that, or hearing a growling on an investigation and I'm searching for a rabid raccoon. And, I'm waiting for it to like bite my face off, and I'm a little unnerved by that, but I didn't find anything that would cause the growling. So I was a little more settled at that point. So I'm more unnerved by that. But as far as, having an investigation, I have had one or two investigations in the criminal aspect that have been extremely creepy. There was one in which, everybody at work knows kind of what I do in my spare time. So if there's something creepy, they call me, and I got a call. They call the creepy girl, and I got a call that, hey, you need to get out here. There's some Silence of the Lambs stuff going on here, and I think it's right up your alley. And I'm kind of like, well, I don't know if I should be offended by that.
Wow. Yeah.
But I went out there, and it was an extremely creepy situation and a creepy scene. And I think I was slightly unnerved by what I saw, because I've never seen anything like that before, not even in a movie.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was a bit unnerving, and the vibe there was very dark, and it was felt by everybody who was there.
Yeah, that's very funny that, I used to be a horror movie fan. I'm not too in tune to that vibration right now. So I do go back to it sometimes, but that's true. Unnerving to you could be someone offering you ice cream because you're so used to the dark, scary stuff. And let's say,
yes.
Oh, that's great. It'll make you suspicious. If something, it's almost like sometimes I do these on my own. I do my podcast on my own, and I do a lot of research into one particular topic. And right now I'm doing one on the dark web, and it's like, I don't even think the imagination of Hollywood sometimes is anywhere near as good as some of the most horrific things that humans really do.
Right.
Like
I agree.
Even that Saw movie, I thought that's as bad as it's going to get. And I was like, no, it's not. And I didn't turn away fast enough when I was doing some research on that. Last question. What is one of the most rewarding or enlightening things that happened to you on any of your investigations?
Well, I think being able to help someone overcome, their fears, especially in the paranormal aspect. Somebody is frightened, especially children. We get cases where there are children involved, and they don't know how to handle the situation, and they're very fearful to even be in their home. And being able to help them overcome their fears and to evolve to be able to handle their surroundings, I think is really rewarding. But also, the most rewarding thing was finding them amazing group of people who are, like-minded friends that I get to investigate with, and I get to actually go out with them, and I get to help these individuals that are fearful and don't know how to handle their situations, and try to help them to feel more comfortable.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Yeah. And people don't realize. Well, actually, now if they listen to my podcast, they realize a lot of help for historical places is being done by paranormal groups. So.
Yes. We actually, we volunteer all of our time, and we are trying to also, create tours in other locations to kind of raise money to be able to preserve, that history as well. So yeah, a lot of the paranormal groups are actually helping to preserve the local history and help with education for the children, because I think it's important for them to know, their history of where they live.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. Okay, so Tracy, let everybody know where they can find you if they have zombies in their cellar in Sacramento, or they want to go on a tour. Where can they find you or your group?
Well, our group is on Facebook. It's Full Spectrum Paranormal Team. And if you like our page, we kind of keep everybody updated on our tours or the things that we have going on. And, a lot of times we share information from other groups as well who have various tours and events going on as well.
Great. And anything else, anything coming up or for the summer, or is September the next events?
Well, actually, we have two events in August. We have August 4th. We have the paranormal, it's called the VIP tour in Colombia, and that's where we have 8 slots available. Each individual is going to be matched with their own investigator, and includes dinner, and they'll be investigating with our team at never before investigated locations there at the park. And then we also have our normal paranormal tour coming up at the end of August, and they can find all that information at the Friends of Columbia State Park website and follow the links to buy tickets to the tours.
That's great. Okay, wonderful. See, that was fabulous. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Karen.
I think I'm gonna. I think we're gonna see. I'm gonna see you in Placerville. Thanks.
Wonderful.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can go to karenrontowski.com. You can go to paranormalkaren.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you can leave me a review on iTunes, Google, or wherever the heck you listen. I would appreciate that. That helps us get the word out. Also, you can email me at paranormalkaren@gmail.com. Send me your ghost stories or conspiracies. You know, I read those with my sister. We have those episodes coming up. And also, there is a button on my website if you want to donate or have an ad or sponsor a show. We can get you on our sponsor wall. And thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media for all the work he does. Folks, you have a great day. And I need a catchphrase. This is what I'm working on. How's this one? When given a choice, never choose normal. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.